Hey guys, tonight we are heading deep into the warm, misty heart of the Ottoman Empire. You're stepping into a cloud of steam that smells faintly of rose water and old marble wrapped in a linen towel so thin you'd swear it came from a papyrus scroll. You're not at a battlefield or a palace or even a market square. You're in a hammam, the traditional bathhouse. And let's be honest, you probably won't survive this, not because it's dangerous, but because the heat alone might slow cook you like a dolma. Inside these domed sanctuaries of sweat and scrubbing, people from every corner of Ottoman life came to relax, socialize, scheme, and somehow clean themselves with soaps that look suspiciously like hard cheese. You might think of bathing as a private, quiet affair, but here it's a full-body ritual with rules, rhythm, and sometimes snacks. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing the sleepy little map we build together. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You slide open the wooden door. A gentle wave of warm air greets you, heavier than outside, scented with soap and something mineral that clings to the walls. It's quiet in here, but not silent. A gentle trickling of water, a cough from behind a marble partition, the soft slap of bare feet on polished stone. You're handed a peshtamal, a thin cotton wrap, by an attendant who's more towel than person. You're not naked, but you're not exactly dressed either. It's a liminal look, a uniform of shared vulnerability. Everything here is purposefully slow. There's no rush. The marble absorbs time as much as it does heat. Even the water droplets seem to fall slower in the bathhouse. You step into the soyun malik, or changing room. It's airy, with wooden lockers and thick benches. A little chillier than you'd like, but you'll be grateful for that coolness later. You sit, remove your outerwear, and wrap the peshtamal around your waist. There's a pair of wooden clogs for your feet, Naylan, clunky, loud, and completely impractical. Outside of this moist cathedral, you slip them on and begin to clack your way toward the ulukluk, the warm room. This room is transitional, not yet steam-heavy, but a soft heat cradles your shoulders. Light filters in from the ceiling, small holes punctured into the dome like stars in soapstone sky. You're sweating already. That's the point. A burly man shuffles past, towel over one shoulder, hair slick with moisture. He nods at you just a little. The hammam nod. It means, yes, we are both partially naked, and pretending that's completely normal. You continue through the arched entryway into the hararet, the hot room, and just like that, you're in another world, a foggy, glowing chamber where stone and water speak in whispers. At the center is the gobek tasha, the massive marble slab that radiates heat like a sun trapped beneath your belly. You lie down on it, peshtamal pressed between you and the hot stone, and begin to roast. Not fast, not all at once, but slowly, like a very patient dumpling. You lie there until your mind drifts. The heat pulls it from your body, your arms slacken, your thoughts unstick. You wonder if time still exists outside the dome. Historians still argue whether hammams were more Roman or more Islamic in origin. The Ottomans adopted the architectural idea from Roman baths and the religious purpose from Islamic purification practices. What emerged was a hybrid institution, part spa, part sanctum, part social club. And here you are, a very damp guest, in a centuries-old ritual that somehow feels more modern than most modern spas. Eventually, the attendant returns. He gives you a look, not unfriendly, but determined. The next phase is coming, the scrubbing. But for now, you rest on the hot marble skin, dewy head, quiet toes, curling slightly against the warmth. Welcome to the hammam. Section 2. The moment you settle into the warmth of the hararet, that central hot room, it's like slipping into a sigh that never ends. The marble beneath you breathes heat upward, your pores open like windows, and you realize this moment isn't new. You're lying exactly where thousands, maybe millions have lain before you, men with calloused feet and silk robes alike. Because long before the Ottomans, the idea of communal bathing was already well traveled. The roots of the Ottoman bathhouse, or hammam, dig deep way back to the days of Rome, where thermae were as common as taverns, and just as essential. Romans loved a good soak, and they weren't subtle about it. Their public bathhouses were lavish complexes, with fountains, pools, hot and cold rooms, and enough gossip to fill a senator's scroll. When the Romans expanded eastward, they brought their bathing obsession with them, like carry-on luggage. Then came Islam. Cleanliness in Islamic culture isn't just about looking tidy, it's spiritual. Ritual purification, or ghusl, is required before certain acts of worship, and water becomes a sacred companion in daily life. When the two worlds met, Roman practicality and Islamic reverence, something unique formed. A hybrid, a tradition that steamed with both body care and soul care. The Ottomans didn't invent the hammam, but they perfected it, took the bones of Roman baths, wrapped them in Islamic architecture, and infused them with their own rhythms and rituals. And here you are, wrapped in a damp towel, wondering whether you're sweating or melting. Either way, you're part of this long, warm lineage. The room around you is purposefully shaped high domed ceilings with star-shaped cutouts, so the steam rises and circulates like breath through a flute. Scholars still debate whether these domes were more about function or form. Some say they trap an echo sound for a meditative effect. Others argue they just look nice while doing the job. Light spills through the pinholes in the ceiling. The beams are soft, diffused by mist, making everyone look like they're part of a dream or a Renaissance painting that got a little damp. You shift slightly, and the sound echoes every movement in here, sounds ceremonial. A drip, a footstep, a towel flap, it's all acoustically magnified. In the corner, two elderly men sit cross-legged beside a basin, pouring ladles of water over each other's shoulders with practiced rhythm. They don't speak much, but their glances carry full conversations. You get the sense this is their usual Tuesday. You wonder how many empires have soaked in silence like this. How many debates, worries, or poetic ideas were first formed here between suds. Outside this marble womb, the world keeps moving. Markets chatter, politics shift, armies ride. But in here, nothing happens. And that's the point. You begin to feel it, the bathhouse rhythm, a slow lull that matches the drip-drip of condensation down the walls. You breathe a little deeper, a little slower, and your thoughts stretch out, not wildly, not like a fire, but like a sleepy cat on a warm rug. A young boy splashes water into a copper basin, and the sound rings like a small bell. Somewhere behind you, someone clears their throat, but even that feels softened by the steam. And you stretched out on warm stone towel, askew limbs loose become part of the architecture, part of the hum. You think about the Romans, about early Muslims, about the sultans who bathed here before battle, and you realize you're all doing the same thing, pausing, letting the heat coax tension from muscle. The water rinse away not just sweat, but time. You sigh, a long, slow sound that rises like incense toward the ceiling. And the bath, as always, listens. Section 3. You haven't moved in a while, and that's kind of the point. The marble beneath your back is still warm, steady, soothing, like it's radiating some ancient kindness up through your spine. You could stay here forever. And judging by the half-dozing man across the slab from you, some people probably have, but as your eyes begin to wander, you start to notice something. This room isn't just warm, it's intentional. Every curve, every echo, every perfectly placed water basin, it's all part of a design, a quiet genius hiding in plain, steamy sight. Ottoman architects were many things. Mathematicians, artists, part-time philosophers, and in the case of hammams, relaxation engineers. They designed these bathhouses with almost ridiculous precision, not just for beauty, though they certainly are beautiful, but for balance, for atmosphere, for that feeling you're having right now, like you've been gently scooped out of time. Your eyes follow the dome above. It's not a perfect sphere. It's slightly flattened, shaped to encourage condensation, to collect in just the right way, so it doesn't drip on your face, like a rude little drop of betrayal during your meditative moment. Instead, the moisture skims the curves and hugs the corners, gliding down to the troughs that line the walls. Those tiny holes in the ceiling, the filigree light stars, they're not just for mood. They control airflow and reduce pressure inside the chamber, keeping the heat from overwhelming your body. Without them, you'd feel like a boiled onion within 10 minutes. And those echoing acoustics, not a design flaw. The whispering walls of the hammam were intentionally crafted to amplify even soft sounds into smooth, rippling waves. It's how attendants could call softly and still be heard across domes and corridors. But it's also why you'll now be hyper-aware of your own breathing towel flaps and that awkward squeaky noise your sandal makes when you shift too fast. Historians still argue whether the bathhouse's shape had spiritual symbolism. Some say the central dome represents the heavens, the hot slab, the earth, and the flow of water, the cleansing of sins between the two. Others argue it's just functional geometry with a flair for the poetic. Either way, it works. You rise slowly now, every joint protesting gently like it knows what's coming. A shuffle across cool tile into a side alcove. This one's smaller, more intimate. A half-circle basin called a kurna waits there, carved from stone, filled with warm water ladled in from a copper pipe. The water trickles slowly, a hush of motion that you feel in your chest more than you hear. You fill a small tass, a wide-bowled scoop, and pour it gently over your shoulders. The water cascades down in layers, heavy and soothing, pooling briefly at your feet. You do it again and again. Each time, it feels like peeling something off tension time thought. Around you, the walls gleam with a patina that centuries have burnished into glass. The floor is slightly uneven, not by mistake, but by design, draining water into concealed channels. Even in luxury, the Ottomans had an eye for plumbing. You run your fingers along the stone, smooth in some places, gritty in others. This is where countless hands have rested. Countless people have leaned back, sighed, scrubbed, and maybe thought about dinner or poetry or who to marry off next season. Back on the main slab, the room pulses with a quiet rhythm. Someone ladles water, someone else yawns. Far off, an attendant whistles a tune that echoes like a lullaby made of steam. You start to notice the small decorative touches, mosaic tiles with floral designs, not bright, just faded enough to look dreamlike. The Ottoman style was never about shouting. It whispered subtle curves, muted blues, soft geometry that felt more like music than paint. You think about how strange it is, this much beauty, this much intention, all hidden inside a bath, a place meant for sweating and scrubbing. But that was the Ottoman way. Bathing wasn't a side task. It was an event, a ritual worth elevating. You close your eyes again, reclining beside the basin, and let yourself feel the architecture. The arch above you cradles sound like a shell. The dome collects your breath and lets it swirl. The slab keeps you grounded. The water as always flows. And for now, you flow with it. Section 4. You haven't seen your own reflection in a while, and you're beginning to suspect you look like a steamed dumpling wrapped in a towel. It's fine. Everyone else here is in the same silky, soggy state. And now it's time for the most unexpectedly ceremonial part of your hammam experience. So far, taking your clothes off. No, not just yanking off your robe and tossing it into a basket. This isn't the locker room at a modern gym. This is the Soyun Malik, the undressing room. And in the Ottoman world, even shedding layers is a process steeped in decorum rhythm and just a sprinkle of modesty panic. You pad softly from the hot room into this cool, airy chamber. Once again, skin still steaming slightly from the marble slab. The contrast is refreshing, though your limbs feel like cooked noodles trying to stand politely. Wooden benches line the walls, and small latticed windows let in slices of dusty light. Here you'll prepare for round 2, or round 1 depending on your hammam's flow. The attendant meets your eyes briefly. No smile, just a subtle tilt of the head that says, "Now, please." You nod as if you've done this 1,000 times. Peeling off clothing in the Ottoman bathhouse was done in layers. Not just physical layers, but social ones. People of higher status were often given private booths or cubicles, little curtained-off sanctuaries where they could disrobe discreetly. For the rest, it was all about the pishtamal, that modesty-preserving towel you've grown quite fond of. It's thin, but absorbent, long enough to wrap, but not so long that you could disappear into it. You learn quickly that how you tie it matters too loose, and you're one ladle away from an unintentional show too tight, and you'll spend the next hour adjusting, like you're at a toga party with performance anxiety. You sit briefly on the wooden bench, catching your breath. There's a rhythm to all this undress rinse, steam scrub, rest repeat, a structure that encourages stillness while still giving you something to do. Somehow it works. Next to you, another guest carefully folds their outer garments. Not crumples folds, because garments weren't just clothes in the Ottoman world. They were status markers. Embroidered jackets, silk underrobes, little tassels and trims that whispered about your income bracket without ever saying a word. You'd think no one cares, being half naked and sweaty, But oh, they notice, especially the bathhouse regulars. Historians still argue whether hammams were truly egalitarian. In theory, everyone came here: sultans, merchants, beggars. But in practice, subtle cues like towel fabric soap, scent, and the quality of your sandals gave away your rank instantly. Even nudity had hierarchy. And yet, in this space, something shifts. Stripped of your outer identity, you feel strangely more present, more real. The performative layers peel away. Your muscles soften, your mind loosens, and for once, no one's watching for anything but how well you navigate the steam. You slip on a fresh peshtamal dry for now, soon to be very not, and feel it cling slightly to your skin. You don't rush. You don't need to. In the hammam, even changing clothes is slow, deliberate, almost mindful. You watch others go through the same process. A young man checking the tightness of his towel like he's preparing for battle. An older man wrapping a second cloth around his head, perhaps to guard against dizziness, or perhaps just tradition. And a boy helping his grandfather tie his sash with surprising gentleness. These moments are small, but they echo. Near the wall, a natur, a female attendant, if it's Women's Day, or perhaps just the male version on a mixed day, is folding used towels into a neat pile. Her hands move quickly, but carefully, like she's done this 10,000 times. Maybe more. You're handed a small bundle soap scrub mitt, a fresh towel, the essentials. The peshtamal is cinched. Your sandals squeak faintly on the wet stone. You draw in a deep breath, and then once more, you step back toward the hararet. The steam greets you like an old friend. The light seems softer now, the marble a bit warmer, and you're not just a guest. You're part of it now, stripped, wrapped, softened, and ready. Section 5. The steam seems thicker this time. It hugs your face, beads gently at your collarbone, and swirls slowly as you walk back into the hararet, the hot heart of the hammam. Your skin has already adjusted to the rhythm of this place. Heat, rest, rinse, repeat. And your senses begin to soften like soap, left too long in a dish. You take your place on the edge of the gobektasha, that great warm slab of marble that now feels more like a heated bed than a rock. You stretch out again, sighing without realizing, and let your towel cling loosely where it may. A contented man next to you murmurs something inaudible, likely an ancient version of, "Yep, this is the life." Soon enough, the room begins to shift with motion. The bathhouse is no longer just a steam temple of silence. It's a social salon, a low-key gossip hall where everyone's voice sounds a little more melodic, a little more confidential thanks to the dome's perfect acoustics. Conversations bubble up like soap lather, not loud, not intrusive, just threads of thought drifting through the mist. Two friends argue gently about a neighbor's chicken habit. A man mutters something about rising tax grain quotas. Another praises the new olive oil merchant, like he's discovered the meaning of life in a soap bubble. Ottoman hammams weren't just for cleaning. They were community nerve centers, places where news spread faster than any written decree. You didn't need parchment if you had a decent memory and a regular bath schedule. You ladle water over your shoulders. The metal basin makes a delicate clang as it's set down. Across the room, someone chuckles softly. It's the kind of laughter you only hear when everyone's too relaxed to fake anything. Of course, Hammams weren't lawless. There were unspoken rules, and sometimes very spoken ones. Don't splash, don't shout, don't stare. Mind your ladle, mind your limbs, and for the love of all that's holy, don't drop your towel. You'd think that last one would be obvious. But well, mistakes happen. Historians still argue whether these behavioral expectations came more from Islamic modesty codes or from sheer practicality. After all, hot stone rooms full of half-naked people require some structure, or things could go sideways fast. There were also class boundaries to navigate. While all social strata might visit the hammam, not everyone went at the same time. Bath hours were often segregated by gender and unofficially by status. Wealthier patrons might reserve private hours or enjoy quieter mid-afternoons. Meanwhile, the crowds came in the evenings after work, when gossip flowed like rose water and the heat was peaking. You sip water from a brass cup, set it down, and notice a small knot of younger bathers settling in by the corner kurna. They chat quickly, their words bouncing off the marble like lazy birds. You catch snippets, plans for a cousin's wedding, complaints about a cartwheel accident, a debate over the best sesame bread in the city. One man gestures animatedly with a piece of soap, which is always a gamble. It slips, lands with a dramatic plop, and they all laugh. The sound rolls through the dome, echoed by an amused grunt from the elder near the basin. That's the thing about the bathhouse. Even when everyone is half-dressed, drenched, and drowsy, it's deeply human, vulnerable, yes, but also real. Stripped of titles, uniforms, obligations, you're just bodies in steam, trying to get clean and feel a little better about life. You lie back down, your arms sprawled to the sides, and your body makes a soft sizzle sound on the stone. You're cooked just enough now to melt into the moment, and then drifting on the edge of consciousness, you hear it. A single voice, soft and melodic, beginning to hum. Someone sings. A wordless tune, just a few notes, rising like steam through the dome. No one claps, no one joins in, but everyone listens. Because in the hammam, music isn't performance, it's part of the water. Section 6. You are not entirely sure what time it is anymore. The sun has disappeared from the star holes in the ceiling, or maybe you've just stopped noticing it. Time, like your modesty and your outer layers, has melted away in here. But one thing is clear. Your skin has reached maximum steam saturation, and it's time for the next ritual, the kese. You hear the soft slap of sandals approaching, and open your eyes just enough to see him, the telak, your attendant. He's built like a barrel towel, wrapped low hair, slicked back arms, glistening with the kind of confidence that comes from exfoliating hundreds of strangers a year. He carries a simple cloth mitt, unassuming and innocent looking, until it's not. The kese is more than just a scrub. It's a bodily revelation, a deep exfoliation that borders on a controlled sanding, and you willingly are the plank of wood. You sit up and give the telak a nod of sleepy consent. He doesn't speak, but gestures for you to lie flat again. You shift, press your back to the marble, and close your eyes, like you're about to undergo a dental procedure or a gentle exorcism. The mitt comes down. It's not painful exactly. It's brisk, firm, like being cleaned by someone with a mild grudge. Your skin responds immediately. Flakes slough off like betrayal. Tiny curls of forgotten soap. Yesterday's stress and probably the memory of a bad joke from last week. The telak works in methodical passes from shoulder to wrist, then across your back in slow, grainy arcs. You are flipped with a nudge more towel than dignity now, and he continues on your chest, arms, legs. Each stroke is efficient, almost meditative. He's not here to chat. He's here to liberate your epidermis. And liberate he does. Within minutes, you are half a person lighter, metaphorically and literally. Piles of what used to be you now glisten on the marble like damp parmesan. You'd be embarrassed if you weren't so oddly proud. Historians still argue whether the case myth originated in the Ottoman Empire or was adapted from earlier Greek and Roman practices. What's clear is that the Ottomans elevated it to a fine art. A clean skin they believed was a clean soul. And if that's true, you're basically a saint now. Once the scrubbing ends, your talak scoops warm water from the basin and pours it generously across your limbs. Not rushed, not cold, just right. It feels like a silk curtain falling across your body. The grainy tightness disappears, and what's left is soft, new, vulnerable. You've been peeled like fruit. Then, without ceremony, he nods and steps back. His job is done. You thank him quietly. He grunts something that might mean you're welcome, or might just be the universal sound for next. You lie there limp and pink, basking in your rebirth. Your skin feels like it no longer belongs to a person who ever stressed about taxes or tripped on paving stones, or once ate a pomegranate too aggressively. The room seems quieter now. The steam is less of a fog and more like a veil. Around you, other bathers are being scrubbed, flipped, rinsed. All part of the same ballet. A younger boy groans softly as his talak hits a particularly stubborn patch. "This is revenge for all my sins," he mumbles. His friend laughs. Even the talak lets out a snort. You wonder how many apologies have been whispered in this room. How many people came in to get clean and left feeling cleansed in a deeper way. Not because of soap, but because being this exposed, this scrubbed down leaves no room for pride. Only relief. Your skin prickles as cooler air from an aside chamber brushes past. You're still lying on the Gobektashi arms, flopped wide head turned toward the echoing dome. The star holes above blur and sharpen through the mist, and in this quiet, gleaming vulnerability, you smile. Because somewhere in this bathhouse, on some other slab of marble, someone else is getting their own sins scrubbed away with a mitt and a bucket of warm water, and that oddly feels comforting. Section 7. Your skin is still humming. Not from pain, no, the case wasn't cruel, but from the unfamiliar sensation of absolute baby-soft smoothness. You shift slightly on the marble slab and feel new skin gliding over new skin. It's as if your body has been buffed, your edges rounded like river stones, your entire exterior upgraded to deluxe mode. The talak is gone now, off to scrub another bather into enlightenment. You lie there, eyes half closed, pulse, slow thoughts, drifting like steam, but eventually you rise, gently, carefully, because next comes the soaking phase. And yes, it gets even more relaxing. You step off the Gobektashi with the grace of someone who knows their legs may not fully cooperate. Your peshtamal is rewrapped loosely. Your feet slide slightly on the warm, wet stone as you cross toward the halvet, a smaller, semi-private alcove tucked behind a curved wall filled with even more concentrated heat, and a basin that whispers luxury. This dear bather is the boiled grape leaf moment. You are about to be roasted to perfection, and you're going to love every sweaty, slippery second of it. You lower yourself onto a smooth, heated platform in the hovet, slightly tilted so water can trickle away. You lean back. The stone is hotter than it looks, but you're used to it now. You've become one with the steam. Your breath slows. The heat crawls up your spine and across your shoulders like a thick, invisible shawl. This is where things start to feel a little surreal. The hovet is quiet, save for the distant splash of ladled water and the rhythmic drip of condensation. You imagine Ottoman poets lying here in the same pose, words forming in the fog, inspired by the hum of heat and the absence of interruption. Historians still argue whether these intense steam rooms served a medicinal role or simply elevated the bathhouse into a full-blown therapeutic retreat. Either way, the halvet was often considered the heart of the hammam, the place where the cleansing reached its deepest level, both physical and psychological. Your muscles melt. Your thoughts blur. You start to think about things that haven't occurred to you in weeks. Childhood memories, old love letters, what you might eat tomorrow. Not because you're anxious. Quite the opposite. Your mind is wandering because it finally can. A man near you pours warm water over his legs with slow reverence. It's not mechanical, it's intentional. In the Hovet, every motion feels like a ritual. You follow suit, reaching for the taz and scooping water from the basin beside you. You pour it across your chest, then your arms, the cascade cooling you, just enough before the heat seeps back in. You repeat the process, over and over. At some point, you realize you've started humming to yourself. No tune in particular, just a soft vibration in your throat, bouncing gently against the curved walls. The acoustics are so perfectly tuned. Your own breath sounds like music, and you wonder how many people over the centuries have sat right here doing just this, quiet, sweaty, scrubbed, surrounded by stone and strangers, and somehow at peace. Some hammams were used by soldiers before long campaigns, others by scholars preparing for exams, brides-to-be soaked here the night before their weddings. Children were brought in for their first real wash, elders for their last. The halvet has heard it all, and you in this moment are just another note in its long, steamy symphony. Eventually, your fingers begin to prune. Your skin glistens like polished alabaster. Your towel is fully damp. Your thoughts pleasantly blank. You realize it's time to emerge not out of necessity, but because you're cooked. You rise slowly, stretching carefully. Your joints move like oiled hinges. You gather your things and rejoin the main chamber. The noise is slightly louder, now more guests arriving. More conversations threading the air like lazy smoke trails. You pass an old man drinking tea near the corner basin. He nods at you like a fellow veteran of the slab. You nod back, because once you've been slow roasted in marble and mist, you're never quite the same. Section 8. You're a little wobbly now, your body somehow both weightless and impossibly heavy. Every limb swings like it's been unhinged and gently reattached. You're slippery, scrubbed, and gloriously useless for anything other than reclining and maybe sipping something sweet. But before you find a corner to collapse, a familiar scent wafts your way, olive oil and rose. It's soft, but rich. The smell lingers in the mist, like someone spritzed luxury and walked off laughing. You follow your nose, and find a row of little soap dishes near a basin. This is the next ritual lather, rinse, and repeat until your soul floats out your ears. Soap in the Ottoman hammam wasn't just functional, it was status, identity, and occasionally scandal. You pick up a bar, smooth and creamy looking, carved with a delicate swirl. It smells like citrus and thyme. Beside it, another block rougher, earthy with a sharp hit of bay leaf. And tucked away in a wooden box, a rare slab of ambergris, scented soap, probably imported, likely expensive, and definitely overkill. Unless you're trying to impress someone, you settle on the olive oil bar, classic, rich, and impossibly silky when wet. The soap lathers quickly as you work it over your arms and chest. Thick bubbles form, not like the modern foamy stuff, but slow gooey suds that clump together like lazy clouds. You scoop them into your palms and press them gently into your shoulders. Then again, and again. It's not about cleaning at this point. It's about softness, about easing tension out of places even the casemate couldn't reach. You massage the lather into your neck, the curve of your jaw behind your ears. The air fills with that warm, slightly spicy olive scent, the signature of a proper Ottoman bath. Across the room, you see another bather with a mound of foam on his head, eyes closed, smiling like someone who just solved a personal mystery. You're not far off yourself. Soap was big business during the empire's height. Cities like Aleppo, Tripoli, and Izmir were famous for their distinct blends. Olive oil was the base, but artisans experimented with rosewater, musk, clove, even powdered pearl. Soap wasn't just made, it was crafted, aged, and sometimes gifted like wine. Historians still debate the role of scented soaps in hammam hierarchy. Did the elite actually use rarer blends, or was it all just clever marketing? Some argue the difference was exaggerated after all. Even the basic olive blend did the job just fine. But if your soap smelled right, and if you lathered with grace, it could say more about you than any conversation. A bad scent, a sloppy foam that could follow you like a rumor. The hammam was a place of first impressions, and lather was your calling card. You reach for the tayas again, scoop warm water and rinse the soap away. It leaves behind a smoothness that feels unreal, like your skin has remembered how to be skin again. You glide your palm over your shoulder and feel no resistance, no tension, just slide. You repeat the process for your legs, your feet, even your hands. Each area deserves its own moment. You're not rushing. No one does here. Beside you, a man compliments another's choice of soap. "Jasmine," he asks, "with lemon?" The other nods. A brief exchange, but enough to forge a little bond. Soap diplomacy. It strikes you that this whole space is scented memory. Every patch of steam carries someone's story. You could follow the path of a scent and find its owner like breadcrumbs through a marble maze. You sit back, towel draped loosely around your shoulders, and just breathe. The room smells like peace, like someone took a garden and cooked it down into scent. There's something about that, isn't there? You came here to get clean, yes, but not in the sterile, scrubbed raw way of antiseptics and bleach. This is ritual, scented, slow, intimate. You realize you'll never be able to smell olive soap again without thinking of this moment, this precise suspended breath between steam and silence. One final rinse. One last scoop of water cascading over your scalp like a waterfall in miniature. It trickles down your neck, your back, your knees, your feet. Everything about you is soft now, subtle, human in the truest sense. You wring out your towel and begin to move toward the rest chamber, a slower, quieter space. But your skin is already humming its thank yous. Section 9. You emerge from the harem like a freshly poached pear, steamy tender, and perhaps a bit bewildered by gravity. The cooler air of the soakluk, the cooling down room, brushes against your damp skin and sends a small shiver up your spine. Not cold exactly, but gentle. A reminder that your limbs are returning to the world, and so is your mind. This room is quieter, not silent. There's still the murmur of conversation, the occasional clink of glass, a faint laugh that ripples like a pebble tossed into calm water. But it's not the echoing acoustics of the hot chamber. Here, the dome is lower, the walls closer, the sound warmer, more personal. And here you find the women. It's Ladies' Day, or perhaps you've slipped into the women's session, entirely depending on your imaginary character tonight. In Ottoman, hammam's bathing was strictly gender segregated, either by alternating hours or by having entirely separate buildings. But the women's hammam had its own pulse, its own rhythm, and its own set of traditions. You step into a room where the scent has changed, less musk, more rose and henna. The air is lighter, fabrics flutter, and laughter lives here in a different way, open, easy, unapologetic. Women recline on cushions along the marble benches, hair wrapped in colored cloths, fingers dipped in henna bowls, chatting softly or singing old lullabies, while steam curls in lazy arcs overhead. This is not just hygiene. This is social ritual. Bathhouses were some of the few public spaces in Ottoman society where women could gather freely. Mothers and daughters, sisters, friends, even brides-to-be would spend hours together, washing, grooming, preparing venting, and sometimes even matchmaking. The hammam was a haven, a space between the roles they wore outside, wife, widow, servant, matron, and the softness they could share inside. You move slowly toward a quiet alcove, settling beside a basin filled with warm water perfumed with lavender petals. A nearby woman smiles and hands you a ladle, the universal sign for, "Here, take your time." You do. A girl sits beside her mother, having her long black hair washed in slow, careful sections. The soap is thick, almost syrupy, and smells of orange blossom. Her eyes are closed. She hums a tune under her breath, a melody passed down from bath to bath, generation to generation. Further along, an older woman applies a thin coat of kuna henna on her fingertips and toes, not for a wedding, not for an occasion, just because it feels good. The ritual of coloring one's nails was common here, not as decoration, but as a tiny fading souvenir of care. Historians still argue whether these women-only spaces were empowering sanctuaries or quietly enforced retreats. What's certain is this: they mattered. And for many Ottoman women, the hammam was their weekly exhale. You notice the way everyone moves with casual grace. No one rushed, no one posturing, towel slips, no gasps, just laughter, a flick of the cloth, and back to the story at hand. Some women chat about their children, some quietly massage their legs, a few exchange recipes, or better yet, gossip. The hammam was a prime spot for whispering truths, engagement rumors, market prices, mother-in-law strategies. It all steamed here before it ever hit the street. And when music starts, because of course there's music, it's not performed, it bubbles up. Someone begins tapping a soft rhythm against the marble basin with her ring. Another hums. Then two women begin singing a mani, a short folk poem, sometimes romantic, sometimes sharp as lemon. Their voices blend like oil and water, and no one claps. No one stops to watch, because in this space, songs are offerings, not performances. You lean back, allowing your towel to loosen again, your shoulders to rest fully against the warm bench. You ladle a bit of rose-scented water onto your feet, which are already wrinkled but content. Across from you, a young bride-to-be blushes as her friends apply floral oils to her arm, teasing her gently, wishing her well. A pre-wedding hammam visit is more than tradition. It's ceremony, disguised as laughter. You close your eyes and breathe in the collective softness of the space. This isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. A room where no one expects perfection, just presence. Section 10, following the gradual cooling of the body and mind in the women's section. The next layer of the hammam experience unfolds through the attendants themselves, the telak for men and the natur for women. These individuals were not mere service staff. Rather, they constituted a specialized class of workers whose functions were as intricate as the domes under which they operated. You observe one now, a telak in motion, gliding across the marble floor with a cloth bundle under one arm and a practiced, unobtrusive gaze. He is neither servant nor friend yet. His role contains elements of both. His presence in the hammam is not ornamental. He is essential. He performs the mechanical aspects of bathing, scrubbing, massaging, rinsing, but also assumes a more nuanced role, attending to the psychological and social atmosphere of the room. Telaks were typically young, strong, and trained from adolescence. They belonged to a guild system that governed their behavior techniques and client interactions. Theirs was a semi-ritualized form of touch, meant not only to cleanse the skin, but also to reorient the patron's bodily experience. Pressure points, muscle tension, joint stiffness, all addressed through repetitive and efficient motions. Scholars continue to debate the exact scope of these attendants, authority, and their boundaries within Ottoman bathhouse culture. While many were employed in strictly professional capacities, literary accounts and archival registers suggest a more layered social dynamic. Some developed long-term patron-client relationships, becoming confidants, messengers, and even political go-betweens in elite circles. This was particularly pronounced in the palatial hammams, where court servants relied on bathhouse staff not only for their discretion, but also for their ability to navigate complex hierarchies. You recline nearby as a telak begins his work on another guest. He begins with a gentle shoulder rub, applying a dense lather of soap mixed with laurel oil, pressing it into the skin with slow, circular motions. Then come the palms rolled into fists, knuckling along the spine, measured and metrical. The guest lets out a small exhale. Not quite relief, not quite surrender, but something in between. In the adjacent alcove, a natur gently brushes a gold's damp hair back and begins to scrub her arms with a soft cloth. Her tone is even murmuring some small story, perhaps a folk tale or a prayer. The child leans into it. These attendants aren't family yet. Their touch mimics familial intimacy. In less affluent hammams, the attendants were multitaskers. They managed water temperature laundered towels, distributed refreshments, and ensured decorum was maintained. In upscale establishments, their responsibilities were more segmented, specialization being a marker of quality. A massage specialist might be called upon for chronic pain, while others focused purely on the application of fragrant oils or managing rest periods in the soğukluk. Notably, the profession had cultural implications beyond the hammam itself. The tilak was a fixture in Ottoman storytelling, both admired and occasionally satirized. In certain satirical poems and plays, they were cast as overzealous or overly familiar, a commentary on the perceived intimacy and potential impropriety of the role. Today, you experience none of the caricature, only quiet precision. You observe a sequence of carefully managed interactions refined over centuries. The tools are simple cloth soap, water hands, yet the technique is honed. It's a choreography of care, where each motion is as much about presence as it is about pressure. You sip tea from a small glass steam, curling upward, catching the light. Across from you, a telak rinses. His hands wrings out a cloth and disappears into the mist once more. Silent, efficient, unseen but never absent. Section 11, you've emerged from the hands of the telak, glowing like a lantern, left too long in the sun. Your muscles have loosened. Your skin hums with new softness. And your stomach, well, your stomach has noticed. Because as any seasoned bather will tell you, nothing follows exfoliation. Quite like a snack, you shuffle your way into the dinlenme odası, the cooling room, but also the eating room, the gossip room, the everything that isn't, scrubbing or steaming room. Here, the stone gives way to wood, the steam thins out, and fresh air flows from high vents or open windows. You settle onto a soft cushioned towel wrapped loosely around your waist, limbs heavy and grateful. Before you, a low table has been set. Not just for you, of course, but for everyone who's decided it's time to nibble between rinse cycles. And the spread is modest, but intentional. Dried figs, soft and chewy, still holding the warmth of the sun. Pistachios cracked open with a satisfying pop. Olives briny and slick. And perhaps most importantly, a delicate glass of sherbet, a sweet chilled drink made from fruit syrup, rose water, or tamarind, and diluted just enough to feel like a hug in a glass. You take a sip. The sweetness is sharp at first, then round and floral, sliding down your throat like a poem written in sugar. Ottoman bathhouses were famous for their refreshments. These weren't full meals, of course, but small rejuvenating snacks designed to gently coax you back to reality. You were encouraged to sip, slowly chew mindfully, and remain in the warm, spongy days that followed your bath. Few cushions. Down an older man discusses bread. Not politics, not war, not taxes, just the merits of yesterday's flatbread versus this morning's. It's a safe topic, and in this room everyone's an expert. His neighbor offers a contrary opinion about sesame seeds. You pop a grape in your mouth and nod as if to say, both have merit. Across the room, two women quietly unwrap small cloth bundles and share sweets they've brought from home. Little sesame pastries and slivers of quince jam. No one asks, but everyone understands the exchange. Hammam culture isn't about having, it's about sharing. Historians still argue whether food and drink in the hammam were strictly a private luxury or a broader communal custom. Records show that elite bathhouses sometimes served lavish fruit plates or commissioned special teas for honored guests. But even the humbler places had their version hot tea brewed strong and dark, or a tray of sugar cubes offered without ceremony. You pour yourself another tiny glass of sherbet and sip slowly. Your body is soft, but your senses are vivid. The sweet mingles with the after smell of soap still lingering on your fingertips. Every part of you feels awake but unhurried. You catch a glimpse of your reflection in a polished brass tray, pink-cheeked, damp-haired, more relaxed than you've looked in weeks, maybe months. You think about all the parts of modern life that try to sell you peace. Candles, apps, playlists. But here in a room full of strangers in towels, peace is simply part of the menu. Someone begins to hum again. A new tune this time. Languid and circular. You don't recognize it, but your body responds. Your breath slowing, your eyelids dipping. You lie back on the cushioned towel, tucked behind your head, and listen as the murmurs continue. Conversations rise and fall in gentle waves, never quite crashing, just swaying together like boats in a harbor. And here in this half-lit, orange-scented room, with tea in your hand and steam still clinging faintly to your pores, you realize something. You are not clean in the way of scrubbed tile or sterilized countertops. You are clean in the way of being witnessed, of having your body held kindly, of resting while the world does not demand anything from you. You take another sip, and you stay just a little longer. Section 12. Time has stopped trying to be linear. You're not quite sure if it's been an hour or an afternoon since you stepped into the hammam, but that doesn't bother you. The tea has warmed your center, the figs are gone, and you're pretty sure you've forgotten what stress feels like. But as you stretch your limbs across the cushion and gaze up at the carved wooden ceiling, you realize something else. This isn't just a retreat for the weary or a washroom for the masses. It's also been for centuries a stage where sultans, viziers, and courtly shadows have come to simmer in both sweat and statecraft. The hammam might be a temple of relaxation, but don't be fooled, it has also been a space where power bathed quietly beside itself. You picture it now, a sultan, perhaps, not the great Suleiman himself, but someone close, a dignitary, a favored general, slipping through the back entrance of a palace bathhouse. His attendants wait outside. Inside, the steam swirls the same way it does for everyone. He lies on the gobek tasha, not above the heat, not immune to the scrub. Ottoman sultans, like their Roman predecessors, understood the strategic value of the bath, not just for health, though regular bathing was believed to aid circulation, digestion, even mental clarity, but for the relationships it facilitated. In this stripped-down space, there was no throne, no horse, no sword, just heat and honesty. Historians still debate how involved rulers were in public hammam life. Did they bathe anonymously among commoners, or stick to their own private wings? Some suggest certain hammams had secluded quarters where elite-only sessions were held under extreme discretion. Others argue the occasional public visit was a way to display humility, to be seen towel-wrapped and vulnerable as one of the people, even if only for an hour. You sip more water, watching the light shift through a high lattice. Nearby, two men speak in hushed tones. Probably nothing serious, perhaps something as simple as marriage arrangements. or the price of firewood. But once long ago, those whispers might have been policy. In some hammims, secret negotiations were held, not in grand halls, but right here across from a basin, between scrub sessions. Because in the bathhouse, your words were steamed, softened, made less sharp. Ideas could drift out more slowly, thoughtfully, and no one carried weapons here, just towels and tea. Even the janissaries, the elite infantry corps of the empire, were known to frequent specific hammams. Some came to rest their muscles, others came to gather news. A well-placed bathhouse worker could learn more in an afternoon than a spy might learn in a week. You hear a soft laugh nearby. Someone has shared a joke, and it ripples across the room like the first note of a song. You think back to the stories of hammam diplomacy, a vizier summoned to a private chamber under the pretense of bathing, only to be handed a sealed note of appointment or dismissal. The hammam, for all its softness, was a place of hard decisions too. In warm water, people sometimes reveal cold truths. Still reclining, you notice the attendant reappearing with a tray of towels, signaling it's time for some to begin dressing again. But you're not done quite yet, because more than the gossip, or the soap, or even the kese, what lingers here is the sense that every layer of Ottoman society passed through this steam. Merchant, farmer, sultan, scholar. The heat equalized them. The marble welcomed them. And for an hour or two, they all melted together. There is comfort in knowing that power can be human, that even the greatest minds of empire once lay dazed and damp. Under the same domes as tailors and bakers, you close your eyes and let your body fold into the cushion once more. Outside, the empire might be planning its next conquest, but here in the lull between rinse and robe, nothing matters more than warmth, water, and rest. Section 13. By now, the bath has begun to feel like a memory. You're living in real time. Your thoughts are no longer urgent. They drift like the condensation on the marble, slow and circular. But as your fingers toy with the edge of your towel and your eyes track the ceiling's shadow play, something quieter begins to settle in your chest. A sense of cleansing that's more than physical. Because in the hammam, bathing wasn't just about skin. It was about spirit. You begin to notice the subtle signs. That man rinsing his face with such care, not just for hygiene, but as if he's washing off a layer of sorrow. The woman in the corner, eyes closed, gently rocking as she murmurs a prayer under her breath. The telak, who whispers Bismillah before pouring water across a patron's shoulders. Here, under domes shaped like stars and above marble warmed by centuries of breath and steam, the sacred sneaks in quietly. Islamic tradition holds cleanliness as half of faith. Tahara, or ritual purity, is not optional. It's preparation for prayer, for sacred acts, for life. And while a quick rinse can meet the requirement, the hammam offers something more deliberate, meditative purification. You rise slowly, following the pull of the warm corridor that leads into a smaller, quieter room, a space often reserved for reflection, or perhaps just solitude. A basin gurgles softly nearby. The floor is cooler here. A folded towel sits waiting for you. No one speaks. They don't need to. You sit, and your fingers dip instinctively into the water. It's warmer than you expected. Still, it carries that same softness, that same quiet weight. You rinse your hands and press your palms to your forehead, and for a moment, you feel something leave you, something small, something stale, something you didn't realize you were ready to let go of. Historians still debate whether the hammam's spiritual side was deliberately cultivated or simply grew over time through repetition and intention. But it's hard to deny the ritual structure of it all, the progression from cold to hot, from noise to silence, from crowded to alone. It mirrors the movements of cleansing the soul, not just the body. You notice small traces of devotion in the room, a carved tile with calligraphy nestled near a basin, a faint line in the stone floor subtly aligned toward Mecca. These things don't announce themselves, they wait to be seen. In some cities, the hammam was built adjacent to a mosque, its steam drifting quietly toward the minaret, like incense offered to the wind. And while no one prays inside the bath itself, wet bodies don't belong on prayer mats. The intention is always nearby. You think of the prophets washing before prayer. You think of your own rituals, the ways you prepare yourself for a new day, or a quiet night, or a conversation that matters. This too is prayer in motion. You pour water over your shoulders, slowly, deliberately, not to remove sweat, but to mark time. You let it run down your arms over your knees across your feet, not to be clean, but to be clear. Nearby, an attendant quietly refills the basin, his hands practiced and respectful. He doesn't interrupt. He just tends the water, and you sit, breathing steam. Maybe this is what it's always been, for a place to pause, to become present, to shed what doesn't serve, and not just in the epidermal sense. You let your head fall back against the warm stone. The towel around your shoulders slips just slightly, and you don't fix it. There's no one here who needs you to perform anything. Here in this softened, scented hush, with your skin warm and your heart quietly beating, you remember that being clean is not the same as being whole. But sometimes it's a start. Section 14. The water cools in the basin beside you, but your body still holds the heat, soaked into muscle, bone, and thought. You stretch your legs a little, rotate your neck, and prepare to rejoin the living. But as you gather your towel and shuffle back toward the soakluk, something catches your ear, a voice low and urgent, hidden just beneath the familiar murmur of bathhouse conversation. You don't turn your head, but your ears tune in. A pair of men are speaking behind a carved screen near the resting area. Their words are careful, quiet, but not casual. You catch fragments, names you don't recognize, a reference to a caravan being delayed, and then more softly, something about a letter being intercepted. You blink. So it's true. Even now, in this place of lather and lullabies, politics simmers beneath the surface. The hammam, for all its peace, has long been a shadowed stage for secret deals and whispered plots, because here, in towels and steam, people let down their guard, or at least pretend to. And when swords are left at the door and reputations have been rinsed for the day, sometimes honesty or strategy slips through. In the golden age of the Ottoman Empire, some of the most delicate negotiations were initiated not in grand halls or echoing courtyards, but across basins in hammams, like this one. Here, envoys could speak without scribes. Rivals could feel each other out under the soft cover of steam, and alliances could be arranged while toes soaked in rosewater. Historians still debate the frequency of such bathhouse diplomacy. Was it truly a common tactic, or just a colorful subplot embroidered by dramatists? Some claim that hammams were deliberately used as neutral territory, where no one could arrive bristling with weapons or wrapped in political ceremony. Others think such meetings were rare, and their mystique grew in the retelling. You shift to the side, glancing discreetly through the mist. The two men speaking now are nearly indistinguishable from everyone else. Mid-conversation, towels loose, faces unreadable, but their body language is too poised, too careful. One gestures vaguely, while the other leans in just slightly. There's a stillness between them that draws attention. Not that you're spying exactly, you're just absorbing the atmosphere, right? In the women's hammams too, this unspoken power flowed. Midwives exchanged tips. Matchmakers gathered intel. Widows negotiated dowries for nieces and granddaughters. It wasn't formal diplomacy, but it was power nonetheless, the soft influence of shared secrets and pooled trust. You recall a story you heard once, maybe true, maybe not. A minor official, stripped of his titles, was overheard venting in the hammam. His words reached the ears of someone with more connections than compassion. By nightfall, the man's home was under scrutiny. By morning, he was gone. Bathhouses may seem soft, but steam can conceal sharp edges. And then just as quickly the conversation ends. The men rise. One claps the other on the back. They exit through opposite doors, as if they've only just discussed the merits of lavender soap and nothing more. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. It's strange, isn't it, that in a space designed for vulnerability, humans find ways to strategize. Perhaps that's the paradox of the hammam. It strips you down, softens you, and makes you honest, but it also invites performance. A towel can hide as much as it reveals. Still, you're not here for intrigue. You're here for stillness. And so you settle again on the cool bench, sip the last of your water, and listen now to the more comforting sounds. A child giggling as he's doused with warm water. A woman humming a tune from the kitchen district. The rustle of fresh towels being folded. Yes, somewhere behind the stone, and steam wheels of politics may be turning. But right now in this moment, the only plot you care about is how long you can stay wrapped in softness before the real world calls again. And in this dome of heat and hush, you decide just a little longer. Section 15. You don't notice it at first, but something's shifted. The steam has thinned, the voices have softened, and the pace of the hammam, so slow, already has somehow slowed further. It's the quiet closing of the day, when the baths begin to empty. The marble cools slightly beneath bare feet, and the spell that's held everyone in softened suspension starts to gently dissolve. You rise, towel still wrapped around your waist, and begin your final round of rinsing. One more handful of warm water over your shoulders. One more delicate splash behind your neck. One more slow glide of fingers across freshly softened skin. You step lightly across the tile toward the dressing alcove. The Soyun Malik welcomes you back with familiar quiet. The air is cooler here, refreshing, not jarring, and your body registers it with a subtle shiver. Not from cold, but from release. You reach for your folded garments, dry now neatly stacked, and begin the process of becoming you again. Clothing is no longer armor, it's just fabric. And as you dress slowly, you realize how different it feels to re-enter the world, clean, quiet, and peeled back to your softest self. You watch others doing the same. One by one, people wrap scarves, tie sashes, slip on shoes that clack faintly on stone. But no one hurries. Everyone lingers, as if the very air outside the hammam might not be ready to receive them. You catch your own reflection in a polished copper dish hanging from the wall. There you are, eyes clear skin, flushed hair damp and curling slightly. You look like you've been boiled gently in kindness, which, to be fair, you have. A final cup of tea is offered as you near the exit. You take it not because you're thirsty, but because it's tradition. The warmth settles in your belly like a farewell embrace. You glance back once more at the dome, its star-shaped holes now glowing faintly in the dusk light. Someone has begun humming again, a closing lullaby for the hammam itself. The attendants sweep lazily, not in a rush, simply folding time back into corners. Historians still argue whether the decline of hammam culture came from modernization, urban sprawl, or changing attitudes toward public intimacy. Some say it was the rise of indoor plumbing. Others blame the shrinking of community spaces. Whatever the cause, the hammam, once the steamy heartbeat of the city, became quieter, more ornamental. Some closed, some turned touristy. Others, like this one, held on quietly, steaming for those who still understood. You step outside. The air is sharp now, even in the warmth of early evening. Your lungs pull it in like it's the first clean breath they've taken in months. Street sounds feel louder, somehow livelihood and life clamoring just beyond the bathhouse walls. But inside you, it's still quiet. You walk slowly, wrapped in your own scent of rose soap and marble memory. Your skin glows in the fading light. The world has resumed its usual rush, but you softened and stretched walk like someone who remembers the taste of silence, because now you carry the hammam with you. Wind down. Final 300 words. Let your breath slow now. Imagine the last of the steam drifting upward, curling gently into the rafters of a room you've come to know. Marble beneath you, warmth above, and silence folding in from all sides. Your limbs are heavy, pleasantly so, like warm towels draped across the end of a long day. Your fingers are soft. Your back still holds the memory of the slab, and your thoughts no longer pull, they float. Each inhale brings you calm. Each exhale carries away anything that doesn't need to follow you into sleep. You're no longer rinsing, no longer scrubbing. You're simply resting. Somewhere nearby, a fountain trickles. Somewhere a basin overflows gently, and no one rushes to stop it. Time here is allowed to spill. In this final stillness, the hammam becomes more than a building. It becomes a feeling, a softened hum beneath your skin, a scented breeze at the edge of sleep. You are cradled now by the same warmth that cradled sultans, poets, merchants, mothers, strangers. You belong to that lineage of steam. Let yourself drift. There is nothing left to scrub, nothing left to hold, only warmth and silence and the slow return of breath. Sleep now, and let the bathhouse dream for you. Ooh.